So, welcome to the Natasha Effect, where we get real, think different, and change perspectives one conversation at a time. Today, I'm here with the one and only, the tax whisperer, who makes things that are confusing and intimidating in the business sense make sense. She's the founder of Two Palms Accounting and Tax Solutions, and we have Nicole Davidson. So, with that quick little intro, if you were to introduce yourself to somebody, how would you explain what you do?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on
Yeah.
here. I'm pretty excited to be able to share my story with everybody. I'm Nicole. I am an accountant and business consultant. What I do is I specialize in helping new business owners and startups handle the often intimidating world of business finances and paperwork. I handle it all for them from entity setup through managing their accounting, their books, their payroll, all the way to the taxes.
All of the complicated things that nobody understands.
Yes, yes.
um, yeah, it's funny because I think you said it's like a secret language or it's its own language. And for me, I think I said this to you earlier. Why aren't we taught these basic skills? Like we know stupid science things like the mitochondria is powerhouse of the cell, but why aren't we taught basic tax code or basic this is what you need to do? Because when I first came to you to do our taxes, it was, I think you said this to me. It's not like you're handed a how-to book when you start an LLC or anything. And I learned that the hard way. So thanks. But um, why do you think that it is? Why do you think it still feels like that secret language or that nobody kind of has a grasp on it?
Because, as you said, no one gives you a how to guide. It's not something that you learn in school.
We should.
We learn algebra and, like you said, mitochondria and chemistry, but we don't learn something simple like how to file taxes.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm seeing though is that it is a generational thing because our children are learning. Well, some schools are teaching. Some schools I can't attest for all schools, but from what I've seen is that some schools are making an effort to bring financial literacy into the program. So
True.
hopefully the next generation will know a little bit more than what we were taught. But it's
Yeah.
like a whole different language, and that's why people call me like the tax guru or the tax whisperer because
Yeah.
I just have this knack for demystifying the complicated world of taxes, which many people are very embarrassed to admit that they don't understand. And so that's something that I enjoy
Yeah.
is helping and educating so that they can have a better understanding.
Well, I think that part of taxes too, or just numbers in general, it's like that unspoken shame cycle. Like you said, you're embarrassed. So no one wants to admit, I don't know how to do that. And even with the thing that you helped me with the state tax, everyone I feel like knows, okay, federal taxes, you do this. But I don't really think that a lot of people are aware of, oh, I need to be doing state tax, and that's a monthly thing. I had no idea. Never even really heard of it, honestly,
Yeah. Well,
until
that's also because we live in Florida and there is no
yeah.
state tax here. And that's something that catches a lot of Florida business owners by surprise when they realize that even though there's no employment taxes, the employer still has
Surprise.
sales tax, state uninsurance and state unemployment insurance. And but other states who do have state income taxes, the business owners know there's going to be some kind of state
Yeah.
piece. But for those who have never owned a business and they've only been a W 2 employee, they're just used to getting their W 2 and filing their
Mhm.
taxes just like any return. The business side of things, it's a whole different
A little
world.
different. It's a different
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that goes to it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think really the biggest thing I know for me is it's like it's the embarrassment. It's like you don't want to really be like, I don't really know that.
Yeah.
And I think as we get older, we realize that. But also with the generational thing, a lot more younger business owners are coming to the light, especially with this generation. So maybe that would be more beneficial to them, especially learning that. Because when I was a teacher last 2 years ago ish now, they had that little like financial literacy where they went to the bank and they got this little book. But it's not a whole unit about it. It's literally an afternoon. And I don't think you can learn financial literacy in an afternoon. So at least there's effort now.
Yeah, maybe you grazed the surface there.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
yeah.
yeah, a lot of the people who come to me, usually small business owners, they're very overwhelmed. They don't understand. And my office is a judgment-free zone. We
Yeah.
will sit down, we'll have a conversation, we'll review your financial situation, and then I'll break it down and explain in simple terms. And it's not magic, it's education. So once they
Knowledge is
understand,
power.
yeah, so once
Yeah.
they understand how it works, then they're not afraid of it anymore. And then we can get to the more fun part, which is finding all the tax deductions, the tax credits,
The
tax
parts you like,
strategies,
yeah.
the parts that help people save money, right? And get bigger refunds. So that's the fun part for them.
What's the like number one mistake that you see new business owners make when you're first doing that initial review? And then how would you say, like, is it avoidable or is it something you wouldn't really know about until you're in that position?
So, you know that movie, that line from that movie, The Field of Dreams, when they say, if you build it, they will come? Even
Yeah,
if you've never seen the movie, you've definitely
I've
heard the
heard it.
tagline, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's just a pretty line from a movie. It's not a business plan.
Well,
Many people will pour their heart and soul into a product that they believe is great. And if the product is wonderful enough, the money will just come.
I
But
wish.
that's how you end up with a very expensive hobby.
Yeah, I said the other day, just kind of diverting from that, I said if you don't have your business in order, pretty much, yeah, it's a really expensive hobby or a really expensive coping mechanism because at
Right.
that point it's like, okay, you have to
So
pick one.
here's the hard truth that you have to take the time and invest in learning how to run a business or
Yeah.
invest in the help so that your business can actually thrive.
And I think that's the part that a lot of people they either miss or they don't want to do because they don't see it as a beneficial expense. It's more so at the front end, you're like, oh, I don't really need to do that or it doesn't apply to me. But the keyword is yet. It will apply to
Until
you.
tax season
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah.
And then they're like, what do I do? And
Mhm.
that I would say that's the number one mistake is not setting things up, not creating your strong foundation from the beginning. And then come
Yeah.
tax time, they come to me and say, well, I didn't keep track of anything. And that's the fun part
You don't
for
have to call me
them. And
out
I
by
say
name
fun
like
and
that.
very ironic. No, not you. Just pretty much all new business owners who they don't know who to turn to. They don't know who to ask. They didn't know what they didn't know
Yeah.
until come taxes when they're like, okay, there's all these extra forms I'm supposed to fill out.
I think the biggest thing I said too is a lot more business. So before it used to be business owners were more middle-aged or older at least. Now you're seeing people 22, 23, 24, that age bracket are starting to open businesses. And it's right, they don't know what they don't know. So you really have to help or find ways to get them to seek help to set themselves up correctly. And so I think that's going to be the biggest shift in the generational aspect of that. But
Mhm.
we'll see where where
Yeah.
it
When starting a
goes.
new business, it's important to get as much guidance as you can.
Yeah.
You know, I love the people who come to me prior to setting things up because
Like before they start.
right.
Yeah.
So I have a few people who are like, "Oh, I'm thinking of starting a business, but I don't know what to do."
Mm,
Right? And so they're the best ones because they're asking all the right questions and really they'll be the most prepared going into launching this business. You know, they
yeah.
know what type of entity structure they need. They know, we can get the bank account set up so that when you're ready to start making money, everything can just flow.
Hmm.
It's those who
I
come to
wish I
me
did that.
after the fact that sometimes a small mistake like checking the wrong box on your entity formation form can lead to much bigger, more costlier issues than if you had just paid someone to set it up correctly the first
Yeah.
time.
And that's like I think that's the biggest thing is people I think social media does a wonderful job of glamorizing entrepreneurship and it hides all of the terrible parts
It's not
or
for the faint of heart,
yeah,
for sure.
it does a really good job of making it look like it's just that easy. You know, walk
Mhm,
into the bank, open an LLC, open a bank account. That's it, you know?
mhm.
And of course, like you have to do taxes and then I'm sure you get it all the time. People are like, "Oh, can I write this off?" I know Lewis asks you crazy questions, but can I do this? Can I do that? And it's just because they see it on social media. So I wanted to ask you like do you think are there certain things in taxes that social media glamorizes and makes really difficult about your job?
I think social media is great at being very creative.
That,
You know,
yeah.
people come up with very creative ways, but creative doesn't necessarily mean legal. And
Yeah.
just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical, right? So there's different
True.
levels there.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, Lewis comes up with these crazy things, but it's not like he's coming up with it. He'll see it, TikTok,
Hmm. Hmm.
Instagram, whatever. And they're always very creative, like you
I
said.
think, well,
So,
it's not just social media, but the internet in general has
yeah.
made it to where you can YouTube anything, you can DIY
Hmm.
anything. Which, okay,
Or
if you
Chat
want to
GPT.
learn how to paint a room, or learn how to install a new sink, then perhaps YouTube can help you with that. But when it comes to something like the IRS, that's not really something you want to DIY.
Yeah, I'm not trying to DIY them.
It's usually the people who DIY that end up coming to me with a letter that says, "How do I fix
One
this?"
thing about them is they're going to get their money.
Hmm.
That's what they don't care if you get yours, but they're going to get theirs.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest thing too, that I was noticing is people are using ChatGPT for any and everything, which it's a great tool when used correctly.
But
Don't get me
ChatGPT
wrong.
can be outdated.
And that's what I was just going to say.
Hmm.
Do you run into issues with
I
your
have an example
clients?
of that
Yeah.
where the client was telling me they were filling out a withholding form for their son's first job in their state.
Hmm.
And I told them that they would have to, check certain boxes. And then they gave me a screenshot of what ChatGPT said. And I gave them a screenshot of the Department of Revenue's legal terms and said that was true 3 years ago, but
Oh no.
today this is what the current laws are. So
Wow.
you can't the AI is helpful in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
but you always need to check your sources.
Oh, that's crazy. Like, can you imagine and people really will think that that's like the end all be all because it's supposed to be AI and smarter than everybody or whatever. But like you said, it's often outdated. Even people using it, it's a great tool if you want to ask a quick question, like a quick Google question you don't want to do the work for.
Hmm.
Um, but I would get, when I was in my master's degree program, ask a quick question so it could pull me some sources. Some of the sources didn't exist. So if you would click on them, you would be like, okay.
And universities check that.
Yeah.
So,
But people are just copy pasting and putting it in there. And then they wonder how they got caught. Whoa, I changed the words. Okay, cool. But you used a non existent site or a non
mhm.
existent source. And so it's crazy to me that people just they're like,
And
Chat
if you think
GPT
about
said.
it, ChatGPT is learning from what other people tell it.
Yeah.
So
We
you
built
don't
it.
even know if the
So
source of the knowledge was correct in the first place. And now it's going to go keep spreading that misinformation.
the way I like to explain it, because Lewis loves ChatGPT, I hate it. And that's just, it is what it is. I'll use it for very basic things like, hey, can I replace this with this in like cooking recipes or,
Hmm.
random things
Small
like that.
things, yeah.
He uses it for like his whole life. That I think he's actually married to ChatGPT. So,
Hmm.
but I refer to it as like the new age Wikipedia because you know how in Wikipedia anybody can go in there and edit
Yes.
it and write
Yes.
what they
That's a
want.
great, like,
And so that's how ChatGPT is.
hmm
It's being trained by us. So who knows what or who told it what.
yeah, that's a great analogy
And
because
so I'm
it's kind
like,
of the same concept. Yeah.
right. And so growing up in school, they always say what? Never source Wikipedia. Like you have to double
Hmm.
check it. That's the same with ChatGPT. And so the fact that people rely on it like it's God is crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's good for some things. Like I'll admit I do use AI for certain things. Like
right.
for example, if someone asks a very specific tax question, I'll ask it to find me where in the tax code so that it can at least point me in the right direction. It'll maybe save me an hour of
I would say
research
time
to
saver.
get
Yeah.
to the page where I need to fully research and be able to answer this person's question, but I wouldn't rely on the AI to answer the question.
Yeah, and I would say it's great for saving time, and what else I would say it's great for is it's great for pointing you in a certain direction or just giving you, like, I think it's great for social media. I think it's great if you train it.
Hmm.
So if you're not using it and you just randomly go talk to it one day, because it's trained by you for you. So I think yours is probably used to only getting tax questions. If I go in there
Well,
and
that
ask
and
it,
like, how to get around Europe, but use it
same.
for other things. But like
Well,
when it comes to serious work, I
yeah,
think you really need to do your homework and make sure that you're using credible sources. As you pointed out,
100%.
for like a recipe or, asking certain things like
Yeah,
an itinerary. I mean, the AI helped me plan my entire wardrobe for the whole trip. I mean, it's very
that's
useful for
great.
like daily life activities.
I agree. But when it's something as huge or like as impactful as like your business, and it can even help you with like your business plan or simple things like that,
Hmm.
but taxes or anything that comes to money, like I just,
Like I said, you don't want to mess with the
yeah, I'm
IRS
good.
and have AI do that stuff for
No,
you.
what's
Certain
they come
things
to
are
get you?
okay.
Well, ChatGPT said they don't care. So I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of how you got into this world of numbers.
Yeah, I didn't grow up wanting to be an accountant. It wasn't like my lifelong
It
dream to
wasn't?
get into taxes. Just like any other little girl, I wanted to be a vet or a teacher.
Not an
But
accountant?
no, accounting was not on my radar. I kind of fell into accounting. I originally I wanted to pursue other things, but then I
Hmm.
found myself drawn to business, law, and accounting, and mostly business.
I
My
see you as a lawyer.
yeah,
Like you give me lawyer
yeah,
vibes.
that was really like what I wanted to grow up and be was a lawyer, which I think is why I'm so good at taxes. Because when it comes to, I mean, law, like tax, you're still dealing with the law, it's the
Yeah.
code. And so being able to interpret it and being able to explain it in simple terms for those who don't comprehend
Hmm.
law, I think that's the gift that I
You
have.
just got to go do tax law or
Hmm.
something.
And then numbers is just something I've always been good at, which is how I kind of fell into this. I was doing office management roles,
Mm.
and one position, they asked me to do some light bookkeeping in QuickBooks, and that was my first exposure to it. And then it's like I had this aha moment of, well, every business needs an accountant. Like it doesn't matter who you are, everybody files taxes,
Yeah.
and every business is going to need some type of financial system. So for me, it felt, and I'm really good at it, it's very easy. So for me, it felt like a no brainer to just continue down this path.
Yeah.
And what really triggered the whole thing, because I was working in office management. So how did I get into taxes?
Right. That's a switch.
Right? It's kind of a funny story, and not haha funny, but like ironic funny.
It's usually how it
So
is.
I was in college working, a W-2 job, so excited to file my taxes for the first time ever. I've heard people getting all these big refunds. So I walked in there thinking I'm going to get a bunch of money back. And so I go to
Oh,
one of
like the
those.
college that what a 1098T, that one?
Well, so far, well, I didn't know anything at the time, remember?
Oh.
So I walk into this, you know, uh, chain tax prep service. We're not going to name names, but the logo's a green square. And and I sat there for hours until finally someone got to me. And then, a few minutes later, they were
Hours is
like,
crazy.
well, because you have to sit and wait for the next available person.
Yeah.
If you don't have an appointment or anything, it's just one of those places where you walk in,
It's
sit
like the
down.
DMV. That's what I refer to it
Exactly. You
as.
take a number and the next person will attend, tend to you.
Get to you.
So I go in there. I finally get in front of the tax professional, and they told me my refund was going to be like 20 something dollars.
Hoo-hoo.
And I was kind of like disappointed, but at the same time confused, because I had these two papers. I had the W-2 and that 1098-T from my school. At the time, I had no idea what it was.
I still
But
really don't know what it means. I just know it. You get it when you're in school.
yeah, I'll explain it here in a minute. And why it was so impactful was I knew something was off. So I gathered my
Yeah.
papers and was like, I'm going to go take a look at this closer. I went home, I did my research. That 1098-T, it's a college tuition statement that all universities, they give out to their students, showing how
Mhm.
much tuition was paid, if they had grants, scholarships, all of that. It also notes if they were full-time student, half-time student, because that all matters.
Right.
And why that's so impactful is because, and what I learned was that all college students in their first 4 years of school, as long as you're at least part-time, meaning taking 2 classes per semester, you qualify for $1,000 tax credit.
Wow.
And that's huge for a broke college
Compared to your
kid. That's a small
$20 that
fortune,
you.
right? So I ended up doing my own return. It was almost $1,200, and I'm
Wow.
sitting here questioning, why didn't they know this? How come me, who doesn't even know anything, was able to do this? And that's when I realized that the system isn't built to help us. It's built to
Yeah.
process us. And I knew I could do better. And so I told my friends, hey, I got this credit. They asked
Wow,
me to
that's
help
crazy.
them. And seeing the joy and relief that this extra money brought to them.
Well, yeah, because that's not like a small, I mean, maybe in today as an adult, but like as a college student,
Yeah,
that's that's very helpful,
right.
especially if you're not like working at the time or anything like that.
Even if you
So
were working at the time, the minimum wage was like 5.25. So like, you know,
525 is crazy.
yeah.
So
I mean,
don't
it hasn't gone up since then. That's what's crazy to me. But we won't touch on that. I can.
it's a whole new
That's a
topic.
whole no new segment. But yeah, and just through helping friends and their friends told their friends who told their family, and all through the power of referrals, I decided to set up my
Wow.
LLC. I was doing it for free at first, just
Mhm.
gaining invaluable experience. And then I decided, I should start charging for this.
Just like this is taking my time.
Yeah. So I started, I set up the LLC and just through the word of mouth and power of referrals, and then couple that with the experience I was gaining from my jobs working in these
Yeah.
different offices and these different roles is what helped me evolve this into the business that it has become today.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. All because you were like, no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Like 20 to what, 1200? That's a jump.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a crazy jump.
Yeah. I'm wondering where the other hundred and something dollars was. I'm convinced that those softwares take a cut of your money because people come
Maybe
to
they
me who have
probably
gone to
do.
these other services or they do it themselves and they're like, I've never had this much of a refund. I've never
Yeah.
gotten this much back. So, and that's the piece that I like to point out is that perhaps going to a professional might cost a little bit more than doing it yourself,
Yeah.
but what you get in return will far offset that little bit of cost.
Oh, 100. I mean, when we got ours back, we were like, what'd you do?
That part's magic.
Yeah, that part is, I mean, look, but it's funny because Lewis was reading through, the document or whatever, and he's like, this is a different language, like all the tax codes. He
Mhm.
goes, that's why we got Nicole.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I was like, yeah, don't ask me none of those questions. I
Well,
don't.
I'll tell you right now, the home office and the vehicle depreciation are probably the two biggest things that most people leave on the table because they don't understand it, so they just don't put those numbers in.
I mean, yeah,
And that makes a huge difference.
yeah, and it is definitely more complicated, but like you said, I think if you're addressing that and you're using a professional whose job is to do that, then it definitely is it's worth it. Because like you said, there's a lot of things that I learned just in our conversations that I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that," which is invaluable because it's not like Google isn't going to tell me that. Like these
Mhm.
big chain companies aren't going to tell me that. But that's what I like about you is you're more so you do your job, but you also educate so that you're not like, I don't have to solely rely on you. Like there's certain things I can do myself, which is what I respect and what I like. So that's helped me.
Yeah. Well, I like to empower my clients with knowledge so
Yeah.
that they can move forward with confidence. It makes my job easier at the end of the year, come tax time, when
I'm
there's no
sure it does.
surprises.
She's like, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy because we talked to before we met you, we went to another tax person, another CPA, and it was like I felt like a number, and I felt like you didn't want to talk to me because I didn't make millions of dollars. And so as soon as I got that, and that might not have been true, but it was just like the feeling that I was given based on the questions it didn't feel human. Like I
Hmm.
was like,
Hmm.
I guess I could get this from the robot on the
Yeah. To me,
computer.
numbers are just numbers. I'm here to
Yeah.
help the people, right? I'm here to help you and educate you so that you can make better decisions and feel more comfortable come tax. Like tax season shouldn't be scary. With the right accountant in your pocket and the right people on your side, it shouldn't feel scary at all. You should be excited
Yeah.
to just get this done.
Well, and that's the thing. I think so many people stress out when it comes time for taxes because they always get a surprise or that kind of
Or
thing.
they're just
But
scared to know the number, so they put it off. And that's worse because the
yeah,
sooner you know the
I'm glad I
number,
haven't felt that way yet.
yeah,
But
well, the thing is, and I see this, they're scared, so they wait until April 1st, which by the way, I don't take new clients after April 1st because at that point I have 2 weeks to finish the clients I've already started and I don't want to, you know, I want to be able to serve and finish up what I already have. And usually
yeah,
the people who wait until the last minute, they're more complicated because they were scared to get started. But the truth is that when you start in January and February, and at least you know what number, you have until April to pay. So that gives you
Yeah.
extra time to come up with the money and make the payment if that's what it comes to.
Yeah, it's really and then it's crazy to me that there's so many different, it's like, oh, well, this tax person told me this amount. This one told me I owed this amount. This one told me
But can they
this.
tell you why? Because that's what we do is we will sit down and we'll look at the tax return with the taxpayer, and I'll say, what are
Yeah.
your questions? Like, what don't you understand? And we'll go through line by line and say, well, this was your wages from your income, this is from your investments, this is from your business,
Yeah.
these are what these tax credits mean, this is how these lines all go together, and this gets summed, and this is how your tax is calculated. We'll break it down.
And that's the difference,
That's
I
the
think.
education
Yeah.
part where now people understand, and you see like their eyes like, aha, like I get it. You see the light bulb go off because
Yeah.
now they understand. And then moving forward from there, things are so much easier because they're moving forward with confidence.
Well, and I think it's almost comparable to like if you go to the super different, but like if you go to the doctor and they're just like, you have X, Y, and Z, big medical term, but they don't tell you what it is. It could be something so simple, but because it sounds super complicated and scary, you're like, excuse me? And no one explained it to you. But if you just break it down and you're like, oh, it's actually this, that's the difference. Now they can move forward. They're like, oh, okay, that's really not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they can know how to move forward. And I think that is the biggest difference between moving with confidence or being scared to start.
Mm-hmm. Like
But
I have ones who they know they owe taxes every year. It's just not, they're expecting it, right?
it is what it is.
But then there's one year, all of a sudden they owe so much more. And they're like, what changed?
Yeah.
And so we'll look at the prior year comparison. I'll break down, well, this year you made this percentage more money. You made more money, but you didn't withhold any more tax. So your paycheck was uneven. You were earning more, but you weren't paying more in tax. So now you owe the difference, which
makes
means you need to
sense.
probably go back and adjust your withholdings. Like, what can we do to fix this so that next year you're not in the same position?
That's how I feel about, like these taxes don't stress me out, but you know what ones do? Property taxes.
Oh, that's a whole different ballgame.
Those stress me out every single year.
Yeah.
That's like still in the tax field, but I'm like, okay, we could do this business tax thing. We can, regular taxes. Property tax season, I'm out.
Yeah, now you're talking real estate law, and that's different. So,
Look,
I know I just got a
I hate
client
all of
asking
it.
about property tax on the place that they rent for business, and it caught me by surprise, honestly, because it's difficult when you know things. For example, like I'm looking at the space, and the commercial realtor is explaining to me that when I rent the space, I'm also responsible for utilities, obviously, and property tax. And I'm like, excuse me? I don't own the property. Why am I
that's
paying
weird.
tax? That's why I pay rent, so that they can pay their tax, right?
Yeah.
Why am I paying tax on a property that's not mine? And if I wasn't here and the place was vacant, that tax would be due anyway. So why are you imposing it on me, the tenant?
That's weird. I've never heard
But that's
that.
outside the realm of my tax prep, and that's more of a real estate tax, and a real estate attorney would probably be able to answer those questions better.
Yeah.
Because I'm stumped on that one.
It's its own language also.
Mhm.
So again, I think Lewis said this. He said, I think everybody should take like just intro to law, just to because honestly, a lot of people just don't know how the law works in terms of
Mhm.
every region of it: real estate law, tax law, civil law. People just see what they see on TV or social media, and they just can throw around terms, and they think that is how it works.
That's a really great point.
And it's
because
not.
one thing I like to explain to people is that people think accounting is accounting, you just work with numbers. But there's different fields in accounting, just like there's different fields in medicine, just like there's different fields in law. You wouldn't ask a real estate attorney a civil problem, right? Or someone who deals with family law wouldn't know about patent law. Or maybe they do, but in most cases, people
They
specialize
have their
in one
specialty.
thing. Just like you don't go to a podiatrist when you have a question with your eyes. accountants, there's corporate accountants, there's tax accountants, there's bookkeepers who don't know how to do taxes. And then there's people who do taxes who don't know how to do corporate accounting. And that's what makes me unique, is that I've worked in all those different fields,
Yeah.
which is why I can bring so much knowledge to the table. I've set up payroll systems from the ground up, working with the different various states and then integrating it into an outsourced payroll system. I've set up an entire accounting department for multiple businesses, working in office management and
That hurts my
working in
brain.
corporate accounting. And just, it's very unique to have this much experience.
Yeah.
And I talk about it in my upcoming book, the business playbook from start to scale. I talk about my entire journey of that clueless kid in the tax office to building this thriving accounting firm that I've created. And it's just something that makes me really proud.
Is there, and it should, honestly, because you're right, you do bring such a unique perspective, I would say. On that, is there something that you take from being in the corporate world that you still apply to your business or, what you do today? Is there what's maybe something that you brought with you?
It has definitely benefited me, and I definitely use things that I've learned in the corporate world within my business, mostly having established systems, established procedures,
The essentials, really.
keeping like an organized file management system, retention policies, things you wouldn't even really think of as your own business. But me being in my field and having sensitive information, right? There's something called NPI, non-public information.
You're like a business therapist.
Where you're not emailing social security numbers and bank accounts and, keeping their information safe, and to having encryption and those systems in place to protect my clients' data. Things you wouldn't even really think about, but because I've worked in this corporate world where we do have to think about those things all the time, I definitely keep it in the front of my mind with my clients.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think that's something a lot of people would get caught up on, not just in tax, but in anything, sending. I worked in the medical field, so for me, HIPAA is always at top of my mind. Oh, I can't send that in my email, or are you sure? I'm careful about what I say. But then there's other business owners that will just say
Some
whatever.
People don't think twice. And they're like, here's my name, my address, my routing, and my account number. And I'm like, oh my God, please don't do that. This is why we have a secured upload system.
This is why we have cyber attacks.
Yeah. And when I reply to the message, I'll go back and delete the data so that at least it's not keeping in circulation.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, by the way, I removed your info. Thanks. I recorded it somewhere and I'm removing it from the email and deleting it because I don't want to be responsible when they put it in an email, and it's not a safe way of transmitting information. It's personal information
and
that.
I wouldn't even, and I think really it's mainly because I worked in the medical field and then the military. So that PII and that HIPAA is just always, it's like, oh my God, can I even say that? And sometimes certain things they used to make us not say, which is okay in the civilian world. I'm like, oh, I forgot. It's I'm too careful now. But
you see how you bring that training into your business, and it's just one more thing that helps you be better.
I think so. I know I asked you before, but well, maybe not. So after you finished your book, and like you said, you don't want to touch too much on that, but you're one of 13 authors on that book. How did that idea come? How did you get involved with that?
I got involved because let me think about this. It was someone that I collaborate with, one of my referral partners, who she was approached to do this book, and they're looking for women entrepreneurs in different fields. They were looking for someone in the financial field, and so she threw my name out there, and the person who organized this whole collaboration reached out to me, and so we started working on this project back in January. And I know, right at the beginning of tax season, because I'm crazy like that with all this downtime I have all the time. I just love to
say, how did they get a hold of you in your cave?
Well, at first I actually said no, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have the time to dedicate, because I'm going into tax season. That's just not good timing, but I would love to be a part of this. So understanding where I was and the industry that I'm in, the other authors were very graceful and understanding. And so as the chapter segments were due, they gave me a little bit more leniency, and I did get it in a week or two after they did, but I got it all done. and participated where I can. They understood that I couldn't always be there. And not all the authors are here in Tampa Bay, actually. They're all
Oh,
over the
okay.
US. We met over Zoom every
Wow,
other
that's
week. We would
cool.
do collaboration meetings as we go through the chapters. If I couldn't be there, the meetings were recorded. So that was
Oh,
nice
that's
because
nice. Yeah.
sometimes I had calls. They were always like in the middle of the afternoon, which is the most popular time that people want to talk. So I could always go back on my own time and catch up on things. So,
Oh, that's
but it
awesome.
was, I'm really proud to be part of this. It was a really fun experience. About the book, what makes it special is that it is a book designed or written specifically for women entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just my voice, as you pointed out, it was a collaboration of other women entrepreneurs, and we all came together to share our stories, our insight,
Yeah.
and the framework and the tools that we use to succeed. And what I love is that the idea of the book is build with intention, grow with a purpose.
Yeah.
And it's not like a one size fits all advice. It's more like a guidance and a roadmap to help women turn their ideas into an impactful business that they can be proud of.
And honestly, just from, obviously the little bit I was able to view, like it truly does do that, speaks to that collaboration over the competition aspect. And I loved that it was not written by one person and it was everybody who's an expert in their own field. And I thought that was very creative. Something I did want to ask you though about the book is for the after everyone reads it or when they read your chapter, what would be the number one like actionable thing or actionable advice that you would give after either a completing the book or even just reading like your chapter? Like what would be your
Mm.
go-to actionable, like what should you do?
um, well, I don't want to tell people what to do
Well,
because when it comes to starting a business, one thing I've learned is that everyone does things differently. Everyone does things their own way, which is
mhm.
what keeps things fun and fresh for me because I love seeing how other people do things. And I
Yeah.
can, because I've seen so much of it, I can tell you what works and what doesn't. But everybody in that book is an expert in their field, and we all touch upon our services and the things that we can do. So I think it's more for those who need inspiration on how to start their business or perhaps, the tools for growing their business. And the other people involved are like social media marketing and insurance and things that when you first start a business, you should probably have, but you didn't know you needed.
Yeah. So would you say that you would obviously you want everyone to read it, right? But would you more recommend it toward like people in pre-launch or like people that are thinking of starting a business or people that are, you know what I mean? Or just
It's for anyone where you are.
that
We,
makes
we
sense.
start, we start, it's the business playbook from start to scale. So either those who are
Okay.
in the pre-launch phase, those just launching,
That
or
makes
those
more
who
sense.
already have a thriving business, but now they've reached their limit and they're ready to scale. So
Mm.
we go from the beginning all the way through scaling the business.
And I think that that is the unique aspect of it
Hmm.
is it's not just for maybe one group. And so for me that clarifies a little bit too. I mean, I guess it says it in the name, but just knowing, okay, no matter where you're at, you can
Hmm.
refer back to it like a blueprint or I guess
Yeah, well, to be
directional.
fair, I still haven't received the hard copies, so you haven't been able to read the whole book, but you
True.
just read my chapter. So if you had the whole book, which I was hoping to have the whole book available today to share it with you, but
Well,
you'll
we'll
see.
get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. The pre-orders are available, and the book will be on sale on my website once I receive it. And so you'll the way that the book is designed is the first part is the starting of the business. And then the next part is for the businesses that are already existing but need to scale.
Oh, okay. So
So
yeah,
it
you're
kind of
right.
grows,
Probably would
it'll
make
kind of
more
build off of
sense.
each other as you go through the chapters.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even just from reading your chapter, I'm excited to read it. And I love the aspect of it being truly written by females for females because I feel like in the business world, you know, we do show up different and we do have different, I guess, perspectives, so to
Hmm.
say the least. And so you can kind of see that come through. I know I saw it in your chapter, so I look forward to seeing it in the other 12.
One theme that's very reoccurring is that all of us have families, right? It's a different
Yeah, which is
it's a
unique.
different
But
pressure when we're also trying to balance our career and our families. And I think that's a really interesting part to see is how everyone's managed to still push through
yeah,
and succeed.
Lewis and I were actually talking about that today, how a lot of like the big name, typically females, you don't often see them either talking about their family or they don't necessarily have one. The ones that are like glamorized and, top fitness, whatever, top business, you know, I don't want to give examples
Hmm.
for whatever reason, but typically the reason that they're able to do that at that level or be there is because they don't have a family that they're balancing or they don't have that. And I think more so this generation and then the generation before me is kind of renormalizing that having a family and being a business owner or doing what you want to do is becoming more and more common. So I
Hmm.
guess seeing that like in a book or on socials or just reading about it in general is more comforting for females who are like, oh, well, I have a family, but I want to do this.
I think it's interesting because you know the saying like don't judge a book by its cover. I mean,
Yes.
would you have known that I went through everything I've gone through if you hadn't read my story? It's not something I
No.
talk about. It's not something where you can look at me and say, "Oh, she's gone through so much."
Well, and
You know,
that's, yeah.
you never know where you see these successful people and people assume that it was easy. And it wasn't. That's really a lot
you
of the most
you are
successful
preaching
people
to the
you
choir.
see. A lot of the successful people you see had to work very, very hard. It's just you don't see what's going on behind closed doors. You only see
Yeah.
what's on it on social media and out in like the advertisements and what we actually share with the world. But there's so much going on. You maybe see 10% of
And
what's actually happening below the surface.
and that was one of the main reasons when I started this podcast. It was like I wanted to be able to also share that aspect because I feel like a lot of people see me like I'm 29 now and on the outside looking in I'm successful. I have a family, I'm married, I own 2 homes, I own a business, I have a master's degree. On the outside looking in, I'm doing great.
Hmm.
But it wasn't always like that. I mean, I came from the foster care system. Like I grew up with my dad in and out of jail. I went through basic training and my foster dad passed away. So I went through all of these things. And it's like, I don't talk about it. I talk about it on here. I talk about it with close friends and family. But when people hear that, they're like, it kind of shifts perspective to like, oh, wow. And so I think you're absolutely right. People only see A, what they want to see, or B, it's just not.
A little bit that you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this book I really had to open up and it made me feel very, very vulnerable because I'm talking about aspects of my life that, unless you were part of my life at the time, I don't go around sharing
Right.
the
Yeah.
hard moments, right? So, social media is just the highlights.
And yeah, and that's what it is usually is a
Hmm.
highlight reel. When you were writing and you were putting it together, did it feel like you were doing like therapy
Oh, I
sessions?
cried a couple of
Yeah.
times. Yeah, I
Was it
definitely cried.
therapeutic though?
It was
Yeah.
very therapeutic and also very eye-opening. It made me
Or freeing,
realize,
really,
it really made me proud of myself.
from where
I,
you
I
came
feel like I've
from.
been
Yeah.
struggling and I've been working so hard and what am I doing all this for? And I'm killing myself. And then I'm writing this chapter and realizing, wow, I've been through so much. The fact that I'm even here today is amazing. Like
Yeah.
I should be proud of everything I've done. And I am. This has really helped me feel more confident. Yes, I'm more vulnerable having to share my story, but it's been very freeing experience because
Hmm.
now people have a chance to get to know me. As I was commenting prior to us starting, is that most of my conversations, I'm just a voice on the phone and it's all
Yeah.
about the client. I want to know about your tax situation, how I can help you. We're not talking about me. People don't really know me and my story and where I come from.
Yeah.
So this was an opportunity to share that side of me.
Yeah. And I think that we need to be more vulnerable in that aspect because at the end of the day, and I think you said it in the beginning, like you might have an amazing, great product, but if your business sucks, or even if you suck as a person, like people don't want
Hmm.
to buy from that. People buy from the person, not the product. And so I
Hmm.
think even with you just opening up more and people see you as more human and not just like a robot doing numbers back there, like a little calculator,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that will be much more beneficial and like humanizing, really.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
so true. You know, really how my business got its start was the power of the moms groups. Moms groups, they're all about women supporting women, moms supporting moms. And when I helped a couple people, and it part of the conversation, I think one reason people like working with me is because it's not a rigid interview like if you went to a tax office, like, all
yeah.
right, name, marital status. No, we're just going to sit down, have a conversation. Tell me about your work. Tell me about your family. Oh, you have kids? I have kids too. How old are your kids? Oh, are they in
Yeah.
any sports? And we're just having a
You're
conversation.
human.
And while what they don't know is I'm sitting down writing down everything, but I, I
Married,
I
two
get
kids.
people exactly like MFJ, married, filing jointly, two dependents. I'm taking the notes while they're just having a
Like, oh, she's
conversation.
really interested in me.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's about navigating the conversation to ask the questions without asking the questions.
Yeah.
So it's what I have this way of just helping people get comfortable right away. And when people get comfortable, I can feel their voice change once they've reached that level of comfort. And then I can ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
And they're more comfortable talking and opening up once they realize that sometimes people are like, I don't even know why I'm sharing this. I just have like, tell me your life story written on my forehead because everywhere I go, people love to tell me their story.
Well, what's that saying? You can't hide from what is it? You know what I'm talking about? The like two things you can't hide from, your accountant
Oh, yeah.
and what's the other
The
thing?
two people you can't hide from are your accountant and IT.
Yeah, that.
There's always a paper trail. They will always find out the truth eventually.
Yeah, I don't want to know all the secrets you hold. My head would hurt. But and that really is it. It's just like being human, making that connection and going beyond just your job title. And I think that that's probably is why, especially moms, we're like, oh my God, women love to talk. So
Mm-hmm,
you're like,
mm-hmm.
guess what I just did? And then it goes from there. But I wanted to say, so I asked you some like more fun questions, but I wanted to know this one just because in terms of finance aspect. But what is like one finance hill like that you would die on? Like this is it. This is the end all be all. Like one opinion or fact or like something that people argue about a lot in terms of the financial world maybe, but that you're like, no, this is it.
Mm, I don't know. That's a tough question.
I know, I was
Because
just curious what your answer would
there's
be.
so much there's so much that goes into it. But I think the number one thing would be to find a good accountant. And I've
That's
I've
fair.
I've heard from everybody that a good accountant is hard to find, which shocked me because I mean, not to toot my own horn, but my clients don't really leave. But well, the problem is, well, not the problem. The benefit is that I'm nationwide. So when my clients move, they don't have to switch accountants.
That is nice, yeah.
So a lot of people, the new clients I get, they moved and their accountants back home, or they can't get a hold of them, or after tax season, they completely disappear. Whereas I'm available year round, nationwide, so people can take me with them.
What
But
would you? Oh, go ahead.
the it's a good accountant's hard to find, and it's just one of those things that when you find someone who works and you get along with and who can answer all your questions and treat you without judgment and just kind of or make you feel comfortable like you're not
Yeah.
being judged. I think that's the better way to put it. Then you want to keep them on your side because you never know when you're going to need them. I mean, people don't really think they need an accountant until they start a business.
Yeah.
But you need an accountant because once you buy a house, you have kids, you're
Well, I mean,
you're
look
talking
at
about
you in
retirement.
college, so
I mean, yeah. If I had known an accountant back then, I probably wouldn't have become an accountant.
that's
I had to
fair.
become what I couldn't find.
What would you? So you said find a good accountant. What would you? I mean, obviously, like you, but
Mhm.
what would you? What would you tell people to look for? Like, what is a good accountant? How would you identify that?
It would be someone who that you're comfortable with. That's first and foremost, right? You shouldn't be scared to ask questions. You should be able to just like, oh, I'm going to hit up my accountant for any random thing I find on social media and ask a question. And that's how it should be. You should feel free to
All
ask
right, great. So I have a
questions.
good accountant.
You should feel free to ask questions because you won't know the truth. And like I
Yeah.
said, I prefer to ask and answer than have surprises come tax season. I'm like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And
Oops.
you don't know how many people I talk to that I'll say, well, you could have done things differently, but now it's February and this should have been done by December 31st. Like it's too late now. And they're like, oh
Mm.
man, I wish I would have known you sooner. And I'm like, yeah, me too.
It's like, believe me, this would
So,
help us both.
yeah. So one who makes you feel comfortable, where you can ask all the questions, one who's available. And I don't mean like on the first ring, they might take a good accountant's a busy accountant. Let me just say, if they're available all the time, I'd probably be a little worried. But they're a busy accountant who still makes the time to get back to you and answer your questions
Okay.
and who will sit down and educate you, not just process you like a
Okay.
number.
That's the third one is key there, I think.
Mhm.
I mean, comfortability, yes, but I'm a firm believer in that education aspect because if they don't know, they don't know. And
Mhm.
then it's really just gonna make your job harder, honestly.
Yep.
So
I have people who call me the family accountant because I do
it's a good
theirs, their
nickname.
kids, their grandkids, their nieces, their nephews, the cousins, and I know the whole family. They don't even talk about these things, but I know everything about it.
She's
But
like, I know all the drama.
yeah.
She's like, I'm not
Well,
invited to
not
the
necessarily the drama, but I get the highs and the lows. Like,
yeah.
hey, we're pregnant, we're having a kid. Congratulations. Hey, I'm getting married. Hey, we bought a house. I get to learn about all the fun happenings in their life and just see them progress
Yeah.
from their kids going off to college
Hey, we're buying a
to
house.
now I'm preparing their W-2s at their first job. And now they're getting married and they're having kids and now I'm their accountant. So, and then
Yeah.
I have other clients who she's a friend of mine. We were joking and she just recently got engaged and she's like, yo, I told my fiance that my accountant's coming with us in this marriage because he's been doing his own taxes and I've been doing hers for years. And she's like, no, no, no. It's either she's our
Oh
accountant or I
yeah.
don't know if we can get married.
I didn't think about that when people like come together and they've had
Mhm.
their own accountants. How do you like
How do you
do you guys
decide?
fight? Go to war.
Yeah. Well, I have a few where they file separately. And so perhaps they'll go on their own or
Mm.
have their own accountant or I just do that one.
When would you speaking of that, when would you recommend like file is it all case by case basis or is there a time specifically where you would recommend like okay, you file jointly or file separately?
It's case by case.
Yeah.
It really depends. Generally, filing together is the most beneficial because there are certain tax credits that are eliminated when you don't file together. And
Makes sense.
then if one person itemizes, you both have to itemize. And if one person files standard, you both have to file standard. So it could cause disparities and one person getting a huge refund and one person owing a bunch of money.
Oh wow.
So filing together is generally the best. The only time I've seen where filing separately could be beneficial is if your incomes are very different.
Mm.
Like, you have a doctor making 300K and a teacher making 50K. You're in very different tax
Those are
brackets.
very different, yes.
Tax brackets where now the teacher's being taxed at the doctor's bracket.
Oh wow, I didn't
Right.
think of that.
So you would want to file separately to keep everyone in their own brackets and you save more money that way. But that
Mm.
doesn't happen often.
Yeah, usually the doctors aren't with teachers, I guess.
Well,
What do they say?
sometimes.
Well, sometimes, but I think more often than not, you're right. People like you tend to date in their own tax bracket. I mean, or like not super different in that aspect. Like maybe a little closer than 50
Yeah,
and
it's rare.
300.
It's rare to see people with such different tax brackets because generally when someone's making that much, they're a stay-at-home mom. So, yeah.
Yep. Look, goals. You know what I'm saying?
Goals. Yeah, I get it.
And then I was curious because you see everyone's secrets, see everyone's financials. What is like the number one financial red flag that you see all the time or often that you're like,
Uh,
oh,
It would come down to business owners. And when you set up your LLC, the first thing I tell people, I think the number one mistake is not setting up a separate bank account for your business. So to answer your question would be commingling personal and business transactions.
yeah.
And the reason that that's not good is because the purpose of the LLC is limited liability company. And what it does is it limits the liability to your business from your separating out your personal assets. So if something were to happen in your business, they can't sue you and take your house because you created a separation.
Mm.
But when you commingle business and personal, it's called piercing the corporate veil. Now you and your business are the same. So what's to say that if your business is paying your mortgage, what's to say the business doesn't own the house? So
Mm.
you're eliminating that liability protection by not creating that separate bank account. It also makes things much easier, especially those who, if you were to start a business and start a bank account and not find an account and not do anything, and then come tax season, you're like, hey, what do I do? Fine. If you started a separate bank account, we're on the right path to get things done
That was
easier
me.
because you can go back at your bank account and say, okay, how much came into the account? That's how much I made. Where
Yeah.
did I spend all my money? Now we can break down your expenses. And that's how we can go from there. And generally that's the first year after of working with me. The second year, people are a lot more educated. They know what to do. They keep their spreadsheets and start keeping track so that next year they don't have to go through the same homework that they did the year prior of
Yeah, it wasn't
gathering all
fun
this extra.
homework.
Yeah, no, I tell people, I'm like, you're going to have homework, but I always say the first year is always the hardest. It's the most work because you didn't know what you didn't know, so you didn't know what you needed.
Hmm.
And I also don't know you. Like, I need to know, like, what's your kid's name, social security. I don't need that stuff year after year. That stuff doesn't change.
I would
So
hope.
unless, well, I would hope, right? So unless you moved, but then I'm going to know that you bought a house, I'll have the house paperwork. So like, it's just the new developments after the first year. So
Yeah.
going forward, it gets easier. I have some clients who like, we don't even speak. They're just like, hey, Nicole, all my stuff's in
I'm
this.
ready.
I've uploaded everything to the portal. And then their next email is like, okay, your tax return is drafted. Review and
Ooh,
approve.
that's what I wanted to
Here's your
ask you about.
invoice. And then they pay, e-filed, you're done, direct deposit. I mean, that's it. It should be that easy. It's 2025.
That's I was
It
just gonna
should be that
say.
easy.
You said something that reminded me. You do you're digital, like you do
Hmm.
all things on the computer, which I love, and I'm sure the newer generation loves. But where do you see the future of accounting going with that? Do you see more and more people moving to like only digital or like moving toward that area, or are people still doing that annoying paper?
I think COVID made a huge difference. And
For a lot of businesses, not just
mhm,
tax, but
yeah, I've been doing this close to 15 years now. And in the beginning, having a virtual business was difficult because not
yeah.
everybody was crazy about the idea of a virtual accountant. People were very mistrusting, especially of the internet.
Same with like digital banking too. Like it grows
Exactly.
on you.
Hmm.
Now I live with my phone wallet.
Yeah. Well, once COVID came, and well, people wanted to take their papers and talk to a human, right? We all hate those automated
Ugh.
systems. So nobody's crazy about the idea of just everything being out there. But COVID kind of changed everything. When everything shut down, people were kind of forced to get with the program of digital and
To catch up, yeah.
Zoom and doing things online. And once they realized the convenience and how easy it is, that I think is what changed the mindset. So
Yeah.
people now have a different mindset. Even the older generations, they use my same upload portal, right? And I will sit with them, some of
I was
them.
gonna say, is it ever complicated
It's
or
not, the thing is that the system's not complicated, it's just different. It's
mm,
new. And for the older generations who can't navigate apps and phones as good as us because we millennials grew up with it,
yeah.
right? And so, but that's part of the education part, and part of having a good accountant is the person who will sit and talk and be like, okay, open the app. I have the app open on my side. Now click here. Now click here. And this should open up your camera. Now you can scan the document. It goes straight up to the folder. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, that was easy. I have senior citizens using my app.
I think people don't realize how simple it is. It just sounds complicated or it's
Until I
new.
hold their hand
Yeah.
and walk them through it. And then year after year, I mean, really, it just takes one time. And then, like, oh, that was easy. And then now they don't want to go back to the complicated world of having to sit in the tax office for hours for the next available person
Yeah.
and having to re explain your situation every
Over and
single
over.
year, hoping that the next person's qualified to understand what the last person did.
Well, that and I think too, like COVID changed in terms of just working what people will deal with a lot of that because before it was okay, come to the office and do XYZ from 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then COVID happened and everyone was working remote, which before remote work was like, oh, we don't do that. So people, I think, started realizing you can get the same exact thing done from the comfort of your own home on your computer in way less time and way better for your mental health. So then people started looking for more remote jobs, work from home jobs. And then that's why when people are like, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. No, nobody wants to work like a slave anymore. People want to be respected. They want their time respected.
People want work-life balance.
Yeah. And so I think COVID, as awful as it was, I think that as a society, we kind of really needed that reset that's like kind of put priorities into perspective in terms of that work-life balance. So I think without that, we would still be, because now
grinding away.
Yeah, well, even with this newer generation, like they are the best way to put it, like they'll speak up for themselves. They're like, I'm not doing that. Like, no.
I think COVID sparked a lot of entrepreneurship. I
Yeah.
think people quickly realized that the security you felt at your employer didn't exist when all of a sudden the world
False
shut
security.
down.
Yeah.
And now certain industries can't even function, like a restaurant. You can't function until they did delivery, but even then you didn't have delivery people for weeks because we
Yeah.
had no idea what was happening. So it really forced people to evolve and I think really figure out their next move.
Yeah.
A lot of people turn to entrepreneurship. And that's something that I talk about in my book too, was, I was working in all these various jobs, but I had my tax business on the side. It was my safety net. So I knew that no matter what happened with my employer, I would be okay because I had this tax business to sustain me as it was growing and building. And a lot of people have found that going into business for myself is the best security you have, and you are in charge of how well your business succeeds.
That, and it really comes down to that, like your mental health and your emotional health and your physical health are all going to be translated into your business health in like productivity, presence, and profitability. So I think being able to make those decisions for yourself, and now you're like, oh, I see, I can do this, was the key difference. But it's funny because I wasn't here in America when COVID happened. So I was overseas. And so it was we just heard about it. And then obviously we had our own version of whatever it was. But when we came and what we saw on the news, but when I came back from my deployment, it was like, I remember being in the airport. They wouldn't even let us get off the airplane. Like we had just traveled for X amount of hours and they wouldn't even let us get off the airplane because they didn't want our germs or whatever. And then we got to the next airport and they were like, okay, you guys can walk around on the tarmac. Okay, cool. And then we got back to America and I got back to Florida, and it was at the time where like the masks still were like, they weren't mandatory anymore, but a lot of people wore them. And so it was really weird for me because where we were at, we were all on a base together. So it wasn't really like,
you were like in your own kind of pod.
yeah. So it was really different coming here. Like, you'd get out of the car, you'd have to put the mask on or people would look at you crazy. But I just came from a different, I don't know. I got the tail end of COVID and here. And then, I had it 3 times. So it was super fun. But it's like, all right, what are we doing here? But that was a really unique experience. And I think a lot more families got closer too. Like I kind of wish that I was here for that year or whatever it was, almost a year.
It was like 2 years almost.
Well, like the part where
Florida is its own country.
That's what I mean.
The rest of the country was doing one thing. Florida was doing its own thing.
That's what I mean.
You can't even really judge Florida as like the whole COVID experience.
Yeah,
because I guess I was up in Virginia at the time, and it was like 2 years.
That's almost. So my family's in Maine, and that's what they were really, really strict about it. I remember it was like Florida had already been moved on. Like
I think because Florida, we're all so much more spread out.
Maybe.
I know Florida has increased in population because of COVID.
I was like, hey, how spread out are you talking about?
If we're comparing like pre-COVID, then places like New York, and I was in Virginia, but at the DC metro area.
Oh, okay.
I was in Northern Virginia. It's not all of Northern Virginia is its own region. So Northern Virginia, DC metro area, New York, they're more condensed, like more, what's the word?
Congested? or
like there's just a higher population, more dense population. That's the
yeah,
word I'm looking for. It's just more dense a population, and so I think the risk was higher versus in
yeah, that
Florida,
makes
everyone's
sense.
more spread out. You have beautiful weather, so you can do everything outside. Up
Yeah.
north, you get maybe 3 months of warm weather, and then it's cold or it's raining, and the weather's just not ideal, and you can't do things outdoors.
I
So,
couldn't imagine going through that where you like had to be stuck inside in a
mhm.
cold state
Yeah, at
because
least
like
you have the
Maine,
beach here.
yeah, here in the beach, you're right, you're far enough away from everybody where
Hmm.
you're like,
But
all
up
right, I'm
there, I
good.
mean, you walk outside and you have like 15 neighbors, and there's nothing to do outside because we're in the suburbs. We're not on the coast. So
The
it
part that
was
was crazy to
different.
me was like the athletes that were had to play games and practice and
Hmm.
masks and stuff. I'm like, what is going on? Like my sister played college basketball and I remember she like sent me the video of their practice and they're all in masks. I'm like, I would literally pass out, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We're gonna look back on these days.
I
Like my
know.
time hop's already coming up with like memories, and I'm just like, oh man, our
Like
kids are gonna
it
remember.
seems
Remember
so
that time?
yeah, it seems so surreal like that really happened. Like the COVID babies they call them, they just
Mm-hmm.
started kindergarten this year. So
Yeah.
like that's so crazy. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was what's something fun I can ask you? Ooh, this one. Um, when we were talking about, I asked you what your favorite theme song was, and this one made me laugh. So I'm gonna ask you again, and why? I need to know why.
I think I wrote "Sunny Side Up"
You
by
did.
Surfaces. Have you heard the song?
I listened to it
Did you?
after you wrote it, but I wanted to know
Isn't it
why.
great though?
Yeah, it
It's just
is.
one of those songs that the first
It
time
just
I
made me
heard
feel
it,
happy, but
exactly. The first time I heard it, I'm like, this just has feel good vibes all over it,
yeah.
right? It's just very, it just puts me in such a good mood. And, it's one of those songs where, one of the one of the recurring things that they say is, "I keep my sunny side up," which to me,
Hmm.
I interpreted that as like, always keep your head up and look, try to stay positive
Oh,
and
that's yeah.
just always be open and welcoming to love. And it's such a cute song. And I love the melody. It's just, if you haven't heard it, definitely look it up. I learned it before Surfaces became popular. Like I
Hmm.
discovered it. You know that song, Sunday Best? That's probably their most
I
popular
love
song,
that
right?
song. Yeah,
I heard that song for the first time like years ago, and I became obsessed with it. And I'm like, you know
I
what? I
love
love their sound. I want to, what other music do they
it.
have?
Right?
And I
Yeah,
pulled up their entire album, and that was on that album. And
yeah.
from there, I'm just like, I love all of their music.
It is very like feel good, like Sunday, clean the house, like
Hmm.
happy music. And so when I when I went and listened to it after I like read it, because I had heard Sunday Best, but I hadn't heard this one, and I don't know why, but I didn't expect that to be the song you picked. I don't know what I expected you to pick, but it wasn't that. But I was like, oh, this makes me happy. So I
Yeah,
was just
because one thing
curious.
is like I always try to keep a positive attitude.
You do. I don't think I've ever
I
really seen you like mad or really
well,
anything but
I get
happy.
mad, but I hide it well. I always
Well,
try to remain professional no matter what, above everything.
that's fair.
Hmm.
But yeah, is there anything else that you want to talk about or that you, I think for, oh, this one. What, because you were talking about how you wrote the book from, or your chapter, not the book, let me
Hmm.
clarify, um, from the beginning. So, like, young little Nicole to like where you're at now. Is there a piece of advice that you would give like your younger self? Um, like if you're where you're at now, you know everything you knew. Like if you were to write yourself a letter or just one statement, really, what would you tell yourself? And I thought of this because when I was, I don't know if I told you, but I'm working on writing my book right now. And when I was reading it, I started with a letter to my younger self. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask Nicole this. So I'm curious.
Um, One thing I've learned writing my chapter was that my biggest strength is definitely my resilience, my ability to just pick up and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to tell my younger self, I would tell her, keep going because it'll all be worth it in the end, right? All the sacrifice and the hard work. There were times where like, I just didn't even feel like I had it in me to keep going.
Yeah.
People tell me all the time, like, I don't know how you do it. And I would joke, oh, me neither. I just wake up and keep doing it. Like, I didn't really feel like I had a choice at that
Yeah.
point, so just
You were in survival mode. So.
exactly. But it's so easy to just give up and say, oh, this is what it is, and let things just fall apart.
Mhm.
It took a lot of strength and resilience to kind of keep it together and to keep going. I mean, I really struggled, but I made it through school. I put myself through school. I wasn't going to give up because I knew that if I didn't keep moving forward, that I would fall so much farther.
Yeah.
And that all this time and all this effort I put in would not be for nothing.
Well, I think that is it's true for most of us. I think a lot of the time we feel like, what's the point almost?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've been there more times than one, especially lately. Like, what's the point? But to just know that you're working for something bigger and better than yourself and like being able to tell yourself that. I think in my letter I wrote to myself, I say like, hey, you had every reason to be a statistic. And then you go on to do all these things. And it was very therapeutic for me to list every accomplishment that I've made so far in life, because sometimes I compare myself to people who are a lot more successful and a lot bigger than I am. And I forget like everything I've gone through and everything I've accomplished I'm only 29.
It's almost not fair to put yourself on that same playing field and compare.
But it's where you want to be. So I think by nature, like, and I'm really hard on myself too. Like, we're all our own worst critic. And being a perfectionist doesn't help that at all.
For sure. I know.
And I'm sure you can relate.
Yes.
But I think the biggest part is just being able to identify that. And honestly, I would tell anybody to do that. Really list out everything you've accomplished, all of your, like, even if it seems small, it might seem bigger later on. And so for me, I'm like, I was listing these things, which I listed to you earlier, like 2 homes, etc. And to someone else, that might seem huge, but for me, it feels so small because it's nowhere near where I want to be. But I have to come from it. I have to look at it from a different perspective of somebody else who might be 29 and they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And so I would advise everyone to just list out your accomplishments, because I'm sure that felt the same way for you when you were writing from start to finish what you've accomplished. And you're like, wow, I've done a lot. I think we often overlook it.
Well, I think what determines success is it's a personal metric.
Yeah.
Right? To someone, perhaps being married with a kid and having 2 homes is success. But perhaps you feel like you want more, like your ambition, you have way more than you want to do. And I can totally relate. I'm like, I say it all the time. Like, yes, I've accomplished all these things, but I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
I'm not done yet. There's still things I want, still things that I'm working towards. And I feel like once I attain that, then I will have reached success.
I hate when people like, they know you, right? They know you personally. And I hate when they sit there and they're like, yeah, but you have X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, cool. I also want A, B, C, D.
Yeah, but what did you do to get A, B, and C? Like, I'll use my kids as an example. People will say, oh, but your kids are so good. I'm like, well, how do you think they got
They
so
didn't
good?
arrive this way.
Right.
Yeah.
They weren't born like this. I had to put in the work and the effort to teach them to be good kids.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the piece that people forget, that it's like it took a lot of time and effort to reach this level.
You know what sentence really pisses me off?
What?
You're so lucky.
I don't believe in luck.
I
hate that too. I don't believe in luck.
Oh my God.
This was not luck. This was hard work, determination, resilience, strength. It was all the things.
God, really, just anything. I hate when someone's like, you're so lucky. It just grinds my gears and makes me want to just throat punch you.
Yes, I'm
honestly.
so lucky that my parents passed away and that I had to struggle the way that I did. I'm so lucky. I had to put myself through school.
And it goes back to that. People don't know. People don't know like what you had to go through to get to where you're at. Like, they just see where you're at right now and they're like, must be nice. Oh, that's another one. Must be nice.
Oh, yeah. I'm guilty of using that one too, but more in the ironic sense. But
well, me too. But
yeah.
People will sometimes mean it with such sincerity. They're like, oh yeah, well, must be nice.
You went to Europe for 3 weeks. Must be nice. I'm like,
yeah, but they don't know why you went.
It was nice that I went to see my brother graduate. It was nice that I spent a year saving up for this trip and 3 months planning it. It wasn't just on a whim.
Yeah.
You know? It's like you said, people don't see what goes on behind closed
Oh,
doors. They
those
don't realize the work and
sentences.
the effort that took to get there. It really discredits the person who
Oh,
had to
yeah.
work so hard to get there.
And then it makes you not want to share like true goals that you've
Yeah.
accomplished because
Mm-hmm.
then it's almost like they're undermined completely because of XYZ. But
Yep. Yep.
oh, those really
Yep.
really
I
get
get
me.
it.
I'm glad I'm not alone
Nope.
because when people say them, I'm like, oh,
No, I don't believe in luck. I don't think luck is what got me here. It
like
took a lot of work.
I'll say I believe in, and not even on it. Like I don't believe in luck, but I would say I do believe in like I guess coincidence or may,
I believe in manifesting what you want.
yeah,
And
maybe
a lot of what I
that's it.
have, I can say I manifested it
Well,
because
speaking it to
many years ago
yeah,
I said, this is what I want. And I envisioned it and I said, this is what I'm working towards. And some of those things have become a reality. I made a vision board 5 years ago and I have one thing left to check on it. And then I can say I've done everything on that board because it wasn't luck that made those things happen. Like
yeah,
seeing the Big Ben in London was one of the things on my vision board 4 years ago.
wow.
So when I had the opportunity to go do it, I said, you know what? It's not luck that's going to make it happen. It's me booking the ticket and taking the time and doing the things to make it happen and
Well,
bring it into
and what
fruition.
I think people don't realize is so yeah, at the beginning of the year we made our like 2025 bingo cards or whatever.
Which I have one more to fill and then I made a bingo. I
Really?
still have it up in my office and I
Um
still check it off when I do reach something.
I check off everything too, and that's what I was going to say. Those things that I put on there were intentional. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I wanted to do them, but it's not like they're just going to happen because it is what it is. I still had to take the steps. Like one of them was completing the blocks. The other one was um, growing the women's group. Just like a bunch of things. It's not like they're just going to happen overnight. Getting
Mm-hmm.
my master's degree, I didn't just wake up and be like, hey,
But like your bingo
thanks.
card and like my vision board, the difference is that we're putting it out there for us to visualize what we want. We're
It's a
manifesting
reminder.
it in a
Yeah.
way. Exactly. You're every day you look and you see your bingo card and I see my vision board that's hanging on my wall and I say, that's what I still have to do. And just
It's that reminder that's like, okay,
exactly.
why am I still doing this? It gives you a
Mm-hmm.
reason to, or a mission, I'll say. It gives you a mission.
Why
So
am I
go
doing this?
accomplish
Because
it.
I like to travel. That's why. It's on my vision board.
I want to
I
travel.
want to travel. I want to go on a cruise. I want to buy a house, which
Have you
I've
ever been on
done.
a cruise?
I have. That was
I,
on my vision board, and that's why I did it.
well, was that your first one?
Yes, my first and only cruise.
Like, I want to go on one, but at the same time, I don't know. It's like,
It's definitely a fun experience. I loved it. So we did it because my husband and I we had our 10-year wedding anniversary. And we didn't have a big wedding. We just did the
neither did
courthouse
we.
thing. And
Yeah.
we said, you know what? When we make it to 10 years, then we'll celebrate. Because I think that's worth celebrating. And
Yeah.
it's hard, but we
Look,
got there.
when Lewis and I get to 10,
And
I'll
so
let you know.
we were planning this whole like vow renewal ceremony and we'll invite our friends and family. And I mean, it was the cost of a wedding. And we're like, man, do we really want to spend
Let's just
this
travel.
much for
Yeah.
everyone else to have a good time? And it's so stressful. I'm like, let's just spend all the money on ourselves
You
and
know what's
take a
crazy?
cruise.
That's how
And
I
we
feel
did.
about weddings. I feel like weddings are not for the bride and groom, no matter how much society says it is. It is for everybody else. And I think that is with anything, which is crazy and that's why I think elopement is becoming more and more popular now. People are realizing, why would I do that for you when I can go spend this to go for me?
Well, I
Like
think
go
it depends
travel
on
or
your family because some
that
people,
too.
I mean, I would have loved to have my family there, but my family's so spread out. I have
Yeah.
family in Europe and South America, in Panama, Central America, and here that it would
Yeah, you
be
got them everywhere.
that it's a huge ask to ask them to all fly internationally when I'm already married. So it was one of those like, and I had one of my siblings was getting married. I didn't want to overshadow
Oh,
that
yeah.
event and my cousin, and it's their first weddings. So
She said it's number one for
it's
them.
their first weddings.
At
For
least
me, it's
yours
like a
was to the same
renewal.
person,
I mean, yes, yeah. It was a renewal, which to me, like people kind of like, that's not that big of a deal.
I don't know.
So
I
to
think
ask
it
people
is.
to take the time off and spend the money to fly internationally, but I will admit that having done the vow renewal, I'm so glad we did it.
Well, I was going to say, I think that it's,
I went out, I bought the big dress.
oh,
And so let me tell you, so the cruise, we went the same week of our wedding.
mhm.
And on the day, exactly 10 years on the day, our cruise line stopped in Bonaire And so I had reached out to a wedding planner on Bonaire, Bonaire is close to like Aruba and
Oh, okay.
Venezuela, like off the coast there. And so we stopped, and I had never heard of Bonaire
Me
until
either.
now,
That's why
but
I was
oh my
looking at
God,
you.
you
I'm
got to
like,
check it out. It's gorgeous. It's
because
the
I know
places you've never
Aruba,
heard of that are the most beautiful
right?
places. They're the well-kept secrets. But
You just gave it away to everybody, but it's
yes,
fine.
no, definitely visit Bonaire. It's beautiful. It's right next to Aruba. You can make a whole weekend of it. Um, but I reached out to a wedding planner and I had them set up a whole ceremony. We did catered in lunch from a local place. We
Oh,
had a
wow.
minister there, which we're not super religious, but we're like, let's just,
Why
because for
not?
the sake of it, my family's more religious than I am. So I think they appreciated it more. But it was really beautiful. And it was just me, my mom and her husband, and my two kids. Well, obviously
Yeah.
my husband was there too,
Well,
but
I
the
would
six
hope
of
so.
us.
I assumed,
Yeah. So
but
you see, it's just like, my parents, my kids, the two of us on the beach. It was beautiful. It was intimate. And then the best part was it was on day 6 of our cruise. It was an 8-day cruise. And
oh,
so we
okay.
had all the friends that we'd met along the way
They got to
throughout,
see, yeah.
right? So after we got back onto the cruise ship, I'm in my big white dress and my husband's in his suit and we're walking around. My mom took the kids for the night so we could have a 24-hour kid-free enjoyment. We went to like the main area. They had like the violins playing. There's a piano bar. And the violinist saw us, and so they started
Aw.
playing. And so we'd like our dance was in the middle of the cruise ship with everybody out on the balconies watching. And then we had a nice dinner, and all the friends we met along the way were like, meet us in the club at 11. So our reception was partying with all of the people we've met on the ship.
That's
It was
fun.
so much fun. It was so much fun. I don't think I could have planned a better outcome.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
And I think I was gonna say, I think the renewal is good too because things change. Like in business, your personal life changes. So sometimes, and also I think it's a good like reminder or a good anchor is maybe
Hmm.
a better word for it. Like we're still doing this because. And so I said this the other day, like society has normalized divorce and I hate it. It's
Most of my friends are divorced or on their second marriages. I mean,
and
I think
it's
10 years was something to really celebrate.
well, I think now, and especially
Hmm.
now. So I think, and this is a whole other thing, but all in all, we have normalized divorce to be just this like back in the day, it used to be a huge deal. That's why our
Hmm.
grandparents and great grandparents, things like that, they stayed married for like my 40 plus years, you know?
Hmm.
And so maybe to them 10 years is like, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
Yeah,
But
right.
now you're right, you're absolutely right. That is something to celebrate because it is not it's not common. Like, and that is crazy to me that it's so normalized. I hate it. And that's becoming just a bigger issue with cultural whatever, which like I said, it's a whole other
Hmm.
topic, but that is leading to more and more single parents, and that is leading to more masculine women and more feminine males
Hmm.
and just inverted society, essentially, which I have a whole nother spiel about that. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think that is truly crazy. But
Yeah,
yeah,
marriage has definitely changed like the perspective, and it's hard. Marriage is hard. And
it's a job.
most people, that 7 year
But
itch is real. A lot of people don't
you
make it
said
past
7 year.
the 7 year itch. Have you heard about that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's like the saying that most people don't make it past 7 years. And I learned, interestingly enough, that in psychology, if you've been friends with someone for at least seven
It
years,
usually
you'll
lasts a
remain friends
lifetime.
for life.
Yeah.
So I feel like marriage kind of falls into that same thing. Like,
I've heard it
because
about the friends, but
if,
not the marriage.
I mean,
But
my husband's my best friend, right? I mean, I do have my best friend, and then I have my husband, who I joke with my best friend. He's my best friend that I can sleep with. So, but I think like, my best friend and my husband are the two most important people in my life.
yeah.
And I mean, I can tell him anything. We have no secrets. He knows everything about me. And if you don't have that in your marriage, if you don't have that in your relationship, then good luck.
Well,
Because
and
it should
that's
feel like non-judgment. Like you should be able
yeah.
to just move. It should be a companionship and a partnership to move through life together and navigate all of this together.
And that's like him and what I'm seeing with a lot of my friends is they're they're married, but it's weird to me. They keep their money completely separate.
I see that
Like
a lot.
And
I
I'm
feel
sure you do.
I'm the weird one because we have joint
We have joint.
everything.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we do. You know everything.
Most people keep
So,
their finances separate.
which is so weird to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're married, but you don't want to put your money together, or aren't you paying? I don't know. To me, it's like the most foreign concept ever. I don't understand how, like I can be at dinner with some of my friends and they're like, well, he's mad I spent this and she's mad I spent this. And Lewis always joke around and be like, oh, she's paying, but we have the same bank account. So
Right.
it's,
Yeah.
no, you're paying. Okay. Same card, whatever. But that's not a common thing. And I thought it was. I thought people just put their money together. I guess that's not normal. So good to know I'm not alone.
That shocked me too, because in tax prep we learn
Yeah.
that perhaps people keep things separately, and I, like you, assume like we're in this together.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I
my
thought it
money is
was
your
weird.
money, your money's my money. Like we're here to create this world and this life together.
Yeah.
And I don't know what drives people to keep things separate. Like what were the reasonings? Like maybe.
But it's so common. That's what I was like, I'd understand if it was one or two, but it's every person I know.
But financial is usually the reason
People
that most marriages fall apart is because of either they're not being open with their finances, or you have credit and debt that the other person didn't know about, which blows my mind that you didn't have these discussions before you got married.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing that people don't tell you. Like you need to talk about that before you tie your credit score to that other person. And then you go to buy a house and realize they have all this debt they never told you about. And it can really cause some strains. Like, I mean, financial strain is the biggest. That finance and kids, I think, are the two biggest factors that affect marriages.
And typically people will now talk about the kids aspects, but I do think that financial, and maybe they talk about finances, but you're right. I don't think debt is talked about. And maybe not as openly. And I think it comes down to like either people are embarrassed, or sometimes people just like don't realize how important it is down the line. But I mean, going into this, like Lewis knew about my student loans and stuff, but I'm so blessed to say no more.
Nice. Yeah.
That was, those were some trying years. Yeah. But I mean, and that's why I'll say to anybody, like you really have to put your head down, and like, if you want to pay it off, you can do it. I think I had like 30 something thousand on private, and then almost 50 something in federal, all done. And it's like, because I went to 2 private universities because I'm dumb. Note to anybody, if you transfer colleges, transfer public to public or private to public. Never do a private to private, because
why is that?
Your shit doesn't transfer.
Oh,
because they're their own. Yeah, me either, obviously. They're their own. I was 2 years through my bachelor's degree, and I transferred to another university, and it was another private. And half, if not more than half, of my credits didn't transfer because it didn't fall in line with their program. Or they were like credits only for their school or whatever. And so it took me 6 years to get my 4-year degree instead of 4.
Well, I could say the same if you transfer schools between states, because I had a similar issue where I started in Virginia and then I moved to Florida, and a lot of my credits didn't transfer. But because I don't want to say a pack rat, but I'm very good at tracking paperwork.
So I'm a pack rat.
I kept the syllabus or the syllabi from all my previous classes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I decided it was important, but now it became relevant when I had to go to the department
to prove
head
it was the same.
And prove that I already took this course. And they tried to say, well, we do different things. And I said, here's the syllabus. Like, we did the exact same thing that you're doing in your syllabus. I got an A in this class. Don't make me pay for it again. I hated the class the first time, and I already did well, and I didn't want to do it again.
That was how that happened to me with genetics. So I took, at the old school, it was called organismal genetics. And then
that sounds so fun.
Oh, it was a joy. Reasons I didn't want to take it again. And then in this one, it was just like, I think human genetics or something. And I'm sitting the first day, I'm like, yeah, I already took this shit and I'm not doing it again. But mine was even worse, because not only did I go private to private, I went from a private in Maine to a private in Florida.
Yeah. So you probably lost a lot more credits in the
process.
I
really, things I didn't know, young little me. So fun fact.
Yeah.
Look into is your shit
If
going to
only
transfer?
life had a handbook.
Look,
A
that's why
how-to guide, like about this big to tell
you got to
you.
write it, but that's what we're here for, to write it for the next generation. And
Yes.
so I think, I wish I had one, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. So we'll get there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me, unless you want to share anything.
No, I mean, this has been a really, really fun conversation, and
I'm
thanks
glad.
for having
It's a
me.
little, ADHD, but that's what we do out here.
Oh, don't worry,
But
I can follow.
look, you talk to Lewis on the phone. I know you can follow any conversation.
Well, being in my line of work, I talk to a lot of different personalities, so
I'm
I'm
sure.
pretty good at navigating
Well, a
them.
lot of entrepreneurs are ADHD by nature anyways, so I can only imagine what kind of conversations you have,
Hmm.
because I know there's more Lewises out there in the world. I'm
Hmm.
sure worse and better,
And they all
whatever.
tend to find me.
Maybe it's you.
Probably because I have the patience
That's
to
probably
be
it
able
too.
to sit here and answer all the questions.
Well, that was our pretty much our mini master class. So thank you, Nicole. And that was it for us on the Natasha Effect this week. So until next time.
Thanks.